Yes.
This is WIN.
Yeah.
N-G-U-Y-E-N. WIN.
Very good.
So I'll tell you one little, he knows this.
Ah.
So when I was reading about the Vietnam War, I thought there were two leaders of Vietnam. Win Cao Ki, who I'd heard about, and Nguyen Cao Ki, who I had read about. Because Win in Vietnamese is N-G-U-Y-E-N, which is a very common name, is pronounced Win. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. This is the humor moment of.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. I'm joined by my great colleagues here. Now, it seems like every day some new revelation emphasizes our request for relevant witnesses and documents in this trial and gives it momentum. There's been a steady drip, drip, drip of information. The truth leaking out in one explosive article after another. In that sense, this is reminiscent of Watergate. Emails were released over the Christmas break showing that the delay on military assistance was placed 91 minutes after the president's July 25th call with President Zelensky. Emails from Michael Duffy revealed that he had, quote, clear direction from the president to continue the hold on military assistance. And yesterday, the New York Times reported on several stunning chapters from Ambassador Bolton's book, including the admission by Mr. Bolton that he was ordered by the president to continue freezing military assistance to Ukraine until it announced the political investigations he was seeking. The details from Ambassador Bolton get to the very heart of the first article of impeachment. The same New York Times story places Mick Mulvaney at the center of this plot. He's a more important witness probably than Bolton. And the emails from Duffy and Blair, the two other witnesses we seek, are even more relevant as this information comes out. So I understand why Leader McConnell and President Trump wanted a very short, incredibly rushed trial, because the longer it goes on, the more likely that new evidence and more new evidence will come out that further implicates the president. Now just look at the other New York Times report last night about Ambassador Bolton's book. Several members of the administration had concerns about the president's dealings with autocrats, particularly Xi of China and Erdogan of Turkey. Did the president have financial interests at stake when he was talking to Erdogan, Orban, Xi, and others? Maybe his kids had some economic interest at stake. And did it impact our nation's foreign policy with those countries? Those questions are not the subject of the president's impeachment trial. But this report should be a warning sign to any Republican in the Senate. If you vote with the White House to suppress and cover up evidence, the odds are strong that the truth will eventually come out. In a few weeks or a few months, do my Republican colleagues want to pick up the paper and read that one of the witnesses they blocked had crucial information about the president's misconduct? That the documents they voted to hide turned out to shed real damning light on the truth? At this point, how can Senate Republicans not vote for the witnesses and documents we are seeking? The president flatly denies Ambassador Bolton's account. Maybe my Republican colleagues will grasp at the president's denial as a reason we don't need to hear from Bolton. But let me repeat, President Trump and Ambassador Bolton said diametrically opposed things. Only one of them is willing to testify under oath. Who do you believe? When only Bolton is willing to testify under oath and Trump isn't, who's right? Who do we think is right? Who do most Republicans think is right in their minds? Another response we've heard is that Senate Republicans and the president lawyers may respond to our request for relevant witnesses with a request for Hunter Biden to testify. Of course, what can Hunter Biden tell us about the president's conduct with Ukraine? What can Hunter Biden tell us about the president's obstruction of Congress? Nothing, obviously. The bottom line is very simple. They are always looking for a shiny object to divert attention from the facts and the law against the president. It's anything. It's anything. One day, it's Nancy Pelosi gave out pens. One day, it's Jerry Nadler said something they didn't like. Now it's Hunter Biden. There's always a diversion. Hunter Biden has nothing to do with the facts of this trial. And it sort of shows something. It confirms something. President Trump is so obsessed with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden that he's willing to risk our elections and our national security to go after him. And now the president and his lawyers are willing to risk the solemnity and purpose of an impeachment trial to go after him. Sort of says the same thing. And one of the great moments yesterday that was amazing, after the revelations about Bolton had come out, there is Mr. Sekulow pointing to the 4 things they're going to prove. And the third one is there are no eyewitnesses to what President Trump did that have testified. Give me a break. He has the nerve, the gall, the belief that he can deceive by putting that as one of the things up on his chart when it's been revealed that Hunter Biden does have eyewitness testimony and is willing to testify. Wow. Bolton's. What did I say? Oh, let me say that again. He has the nerve and the gall to get up there and say that there are no eyewitness testimony when we know that John Bolton has eyewitness testimony and is willing to testify. Sorry about that. So, the requests to call Hunter Biden are an intentional misdirection, a distraction. They are attempts to use the Senate floor to accomplish what the president to Ukraine couldn't do. The fact that the president and some Republicans are proposing Hunter Biden as one of their witnesses just goes to show they have no one to defend the president on the merits, plain and simple. The bottom line remains. It is on the shoulders of 4 Republican senators to ensure that John Bolton, Mick Mulvaney, and the others with direct knowledge of the president's actions testify in a Senate trial. Senator Stabenow.
Thank you. We all know this is a very serious time, and it deserves a very serious and fair trial. And that means relevant witnesses, people who've talked directly to the president, like John Bolton, who know exactly what happened, to have the opportunity to testify. I do want to say, though, yesterday I was quite appalled at what we sat through all day. We started by hearing Ken Starr lecture us about how divisive impeachment is. Really? I mean, I was in the House when he led the effort on President Clinton. Then we heard that Rudy Giuliani was a great American hero. And then we finally heard a summation from Jeffrey Epstein's attorney, someone laying out a congressional constitutional theory that is not agreed to by virtually any constitutional law professor, saying that it didn't matter what the president did, didn't matter whether or not John Bolton talked to him, didn't matter what. There was no way to impeach a president for abuse of power. So that's what we heard yesterday. But what we didn't hear is a rebuttal of the facts of what happened. And the truth is, if 4 people, 4 Republican senators stand with us, we will know from those directly in the room, directly on the emails, directly in conversations with the president, exactly what happened. And so that's the test. And the question is, do they want to hear the truth or do they want to hide the truth?
Thank you, Senator Stabenow. Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. To me, the bottom line is the president's allies have run out of real estate for putting up their "we don't need witnesses" signs. And if you look at what we heard yesterday, for example, one of the president's lawyers early on, Ms. Raskin, said that the president had been done in by hearsay. There was nobody with firsthand information. Now, evidently, the president's lawyers believe that senators are incapable of reading a newspaper or watching the news about Mr. Bolton's book, which apparently says the president made very clear the link between security assistance and investigating Biden in the 2016 election interference. Now, the president has been tweeting these news reports that Bolton is wrong. Well, I say there's some good news in that. It can all be cleared up by hearing from the witnesses directly. By Ms. Raskin's logic, if senators need to hear from people who have talked directly from the president, the answer is to get testimony from people who know firsthand, and they are the very 4 people that we have asked for as witnesses. So this is a crucial moment. I think the administration's case that you don't need witnesses gets weaker and weaker every single day. What I did, and I'll close with this, right before we started, is I had community meetings in Oregon, in communities Donald Trump won, in communities Hillary Clinton won. What they agreed on in both areas, in both communities, is you needed a fair trial, and that meant you had to have witnesses and documents.
Senator Reid.
Well, I thank you, Leader Schumer, Senator Stabenow, Senator Wyden, and let me add my voice to a chorus of those calling for testimony from Ambassador Bolton and other key firsthand witnesses. But I also think the U.S. Senate should listen to what President Trump keeps repeating. 4 times in the past week, President Trump has tweeted a simple, direct message. Read the transcript. We agree, Mr. President. That is what Americans have been seeking since this impeachment process started. Let us read the actual written document. But while President Trump is imploring Americans to read the transcripts, he is simultaneously preventing them from doing so. President Trump released a summary memo, not a transcript, of his July 25th call. Right on page 1 of the document, it says this: caution, a memorandum of a telephone conversation, telecon, is not a verbatim transcript of a discussion. In his tweets, President Trump is very clear. He wants Americans to, quote, read the transcript. Not a memo, not a partial summary of some staff's recollection, and uses ellipses to gloss over what could be key portions of the call and is spun into the best possible light. No, that tweet doesn't have the same ring to it. President Trump could make the actual written record available today if he wanted to, but he hasn't. Why? Why keep a perfect call record locked away in the most top-secret classified file in the world? If President Trump really wants Americans to read the transcript, all he has to do is release them. And look, the written record of this call is not the only key document, but it's the one he keeps telling everyone to read. The House subpoenaed the administration for thousands of documents related to Trump's efforts to press Ukraine to find dirt on his political rivals. The White House refuses to release them. Let me stop there and simply say, Mr. President, if you really want us to read the transcript, then by all means, sir, release the transcript. This impeachment trial must be full, fair, and a pursuit of the facts and truth above all else. And that means relevant documents, witnesses, and testimony as in any other trial. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to say one more thing. Now, our Republican colleagues are going to amazing lengths to avoid the truth. So I heard a proposal that recently came from 2 Republicans, I think this morning, Langford and Graham, that we get the manuscript and read it in the SCIF in secret. What an absurd proposal. It's a book. There's no need for it to be read in the SCIF unless you want to hide something. To what extent are some of our Republican colleagues going to twist themselves an entire pretzel to avoid the truth? Our view is simple. We want 4 witnesses, 4 documents. The Republicans can call who they want. They have the ability. They have the majority. We want these witnesses and these documents because we want the truth. Yes?
But on that topic, as a start, would you like to see the book and see exactly what will be?
Nothing is a better substitute. Nothing is a substitute for a witness under oath, in person, testifying. That's what we want.
So just to be clear, are you okay with the risk that Hunter Biden will end up in front of the Senate if it means you get to hear from John Bolton and the other witnesses?
We're not bargaining with them. We want 4 witnesses and 4 sets of documents. Then the truth will come out. If they want to call their other witnesses, fine. But my view is that one of the reasons they haven't, they have the power to do it already, is because they know they would make a joke of the trial, and they would look very, very bad as they're further trying to distract from the truth. Yes.
Thank you. The first vote on witnesses will be a general vote.
Yes.
To open the discussion on witnesses. Do you think the votes are there for that? And then if there are, I take it you're planning to introduce some of the same motions that you did
Okay.
earlier? Take us through, because that could be a long day. Take us through your strategy at that
Well,
point.
first, I think we are in better shape today than we've been. We started out 4 weeks ago. I sent a letter to all of my colleagues, to Mitch McConnell, copied to all my colleagues, saying we want these 4 witnesses and these 4 documents. Why did we do that? Because a few days before, it was clear that Mitch McConnell, he made it public on Sean Hannity, was going to take all his orders from the president and wouldn't be for witnesses and documents because the president has engaged in absolute obstruction, absolute, on everybody. No president has done that. Nixon let his witnesses testify. Clinton let his witnesses testify. Only Trump is engaged in absolute obstruction. Nobody, not even negotiating. Okay. So we came to how do we get the truth? These 4 witnesses, these 4 documents. As I've repeated, but it's worth repeating again, they are not Democratic witnesses. They are some of the President Trump's main men. We don't know what they'll say. It could be exculpatory. It could be incriminating. We don't know, but we're willing to hear it. Okay? So we asked for them. They said no. McConnell came up. He couldn't get the votes to just say no witnesses and no documents. He would have done that had he could. So he came up with this plan. Let's kick the can down the road. And now they have this vote first on whether we should have any witnesses or any documents. And are we in better shape today than we were yesterday? Yes. Am I certain we're going to win that? Far from it. The enormous pressure from a president who we know is nasty and vindictive to anyone who opposes him is large. Ask Flake, ask Corker. And so we're not sure of it, but the American people are demanding it. 65%, 70% of Republicans are demanding it. So senators know that they're going against fundamental fairness, going against truth, and going against their constituents' wishes. Once we win that vote, if we do, then yes, we will ask for our witnesses and documents. We haven't changed. We don't want any more. We don't want any less.
Senator Schumer, do you think there will be repercussions for senators who are up for re-election this year if they vote against witnesses? There's been conflicting evidence as to whether voters at home actually care about this debate.
We don't know, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to get the truth, plain and simple. Taylor.
How quickly do you think you could depose these witnesses and get that testimony admitted? In other words, how
We do not.
would it extend?
We do not want. I think neither Republicans nor Democrats want to extend this unduly. We want the truth, and we don't want to truncate a trial so we don't get the truth. But we will work as expeditiously as possible to get the facts out, the witnesses and documents, and then we'll have a vote.
How long would executive privilege delay?
Well, I don't think much, because if the subpoenas are voted on bipartisan and signed by the Chief Justice, I don't think courts are going to mess with that. And everyone knows that Trump's claims in terms of executive privilege, which he's never really issued, in terms of immunity, are so absolute that they're almost meaningless. He wants the president to be above reach. Okay, we'll go to this side. Yes.
Senator Schumer, if Bolton does testify in the coming days, could Trump's tweets be used against him?
No, but Trump's tweets can be used to dispel any notion of privilege. You can invoke privilege and say, we can't talk about this, but I can. That's what Trump is saying. Yesterday, he talked about the tweet. No court would go for any executive privilege or immunity once Trump has perorated on this issue, which he has done, and also once he's spoken on it. It's a joke. Cheryl.
Leader Schumer, over the weekend on one of the Sunday shows, Congressman Schiff suggested that Chief Justice Roberts could rule on the relevancy of witnesses. He was addressing a question.
Yes.
Hunter Biden. Do you agree that Chief Justice Roberts should step in and rule on which witnesses are relevant?
Well, we had an amendment. It was Chris Van Hollen's amendment before McConnell's resolution was adopted, so we could offer it, that said Roberts should have to rule. Now, still, the Senate rules would allow the Senate to overrule Roberts, but the weight of his ruling would matter. And we like that, and we hope that could happen. Okay? Yes.
If I may switch topics.
No, you may not. Yes.
Leader Schumer, so you want 4 witnesses. If the Republicans want 4 witnesses, do you worry about tying up the United States Senate for an extended period of time?
As I said, first of all, the only person who's tying up the United States Senate for a long time is Donald Trump. All he has to do is do what Nixon did and what Clinton did and let the witnesses testify, and it'll happen very, very quickly. And even if he tries to tie it up, my belief is, as I said, subpoenas with the Chief Justice's signature on them with bipartisan support would get right through the courts. And what Trump has done on the Bolton testimony is undone any claim of immunity or executive privilege. Last one.
Sir, the President's defense team yesterday avoided discussing Bolton.
Yes, didn't they?
Can you use your questions tomorrow to force them to confront this controversial?
Well, we'll see. You know, members have lots of questions. We're not censuring anybody. We're going to try to make sure there's not duplicate questions, and we're going to make sure that they're done in some decent order. But I'm sure some of the questions will be in that direction. Thank you, everybody.